is just raising the floor of this Lions team. They might be as talented as some of the guys they've drafted in the last 2 years, but they're now coming in to a much stronger team, a much more veteran team, and they're going to be the depth. That's something I imagine Detroit hasn't experienced in a while. Does that excite you, or what does that tell you about this team, this organization?
It says that they're doing it right. And this is what you always want in your organization, is for your draft picks to not be, and I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, that you don't need them to come in and start. You don't need them to come in and play key roles and to be your a number one guy. When I don't think very many people thought Brian Branch would come in and be the type of player that he was. Even Campbell, the same sort of way. We thought, okay, he'll come in, but he doesn't have to be the guy. And so the more you can do that, the more you can build your depth. And I think that's another sign that things are going in the right direction when you're drafting with that in mind. You don't have to draft for need. You can draft for, okay, we don't need another receiver. Jameson Williams wasn't we need another receiver. It's, hey, this thing pans out, we got something really, really good. And I think that shows sort of where Brad Holmes is also, and his mindset is that some of this stuff we can fix in free agency, some of this stuff we can fix through the draft, but time is going to be the biggest aid in all of this.
What?
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask, what is the pulse around the Detroit news as it relates to the Detroit Lions and what they're doing right now, and kind of all the different sound bits that they're hearing from Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell?
Well, I think one of the keys that I saw was when Holmes was talking about we got our A plan together. This was plan A for what we wanted to do in going out, and even getting Kevin Zeitler was a response to we'll try to get both, but Jonah Jackson's gone. We can't afford $17 million a year with 30 plus guaranteed. Now let's go out and figure out what else we can do. And Kevin Zeitler was a guy they identified and said, hey, maybe this is a guy who can step in and if you lose a Pro Bowler, what's the best way to replace him? With another Pro Bowler. So that was the plan. They were able to execute that. But I think part of this too is when you're going out of free agency like that, you have to have a level of success that makes a Pro Bowler want to come and play for you. And when you're looking at playing between Ragnow and Penei Sewell, that's something that a Pro Bowler would want to do. Hey, I'm anchoring this right side of the line. So this makes sense for me to come here. So that success is going to breed other success, and it makes free agency a lot more easy for you to execute your plan and what you want to do there.
Yeah, if I was a free agent and I had the option to play between Frank Ragnow and Penei Sewell, I'm choosing that all day long. But Dan Campbell also, and I'm hoping you're going to be able to hear this clip. We're going to play one. Dan Campbell talking about the Bears and this division. It's elevating right now. And there's a certain player he's excited isn't in the division anymore. JB, if you could roll that clip.
Do you allow yourself to take notice of what a team like the Bears have done this offseason with the number one pick coming up?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I pay attention to the division, especially this time of year, And look, I know this. The Bears, I told everybody going into last year, I'm like, the Bears are going to be an issue. They're a good team. And, so I think Coach Eberflus does a great job over there. Defensive-minded coach. That defense is stiff. They're stout. They play hard. And offensively, man, they got weapons. They got an offensive line, and we'll see what they do at quarterback. But I'm not going to lie, it's nice to have Fields out of that division. But yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of respect for what they're doing over there. So they got a number of picks. They're going to be loaded, ready to go. And I also I see what Green Bay's doing. So I think this division is about to get significantly better than what it's been, and I would argue it was better last year than people realize. We were they're one play away from Green Bay and us playing in the NFC Championship game. So I think this division is about to become very difficult. And that's good. That's good, man. That's how you want it.
So, Rod, when you hear Dan Campbell say all of that, especially about the Chicago Bears, how are you feeling? Are you worried about any of the other teams in the NFC North, like the Bears and the Packers and even the Vikings, who have all presumably made moves with the draft not even happening yet to make their respective teams better as well?
I like this point about the Bears and their defense. The question, though, is at quarterback, and there's no position that you want less to have concerns about than at quarterback. With Justin Fields, you kind of knew what you had. It was just what you were going to get on a game-to-game basis. And now when you're trying to figure out, hey, what are we going to do quarterback wise? How does that transition work out? That's not a given. That doesn't just snap into place. But to his point, again, the defense will set things straight for you, and they'll give you some time for your quarterback to figure things out.
Yep. Yeah. You know what? It's interesting too that he continued to make sure that the reporters knew and that we would know that their eye is keenly on what's going on in this division. I like that he did point out the fact that Green Bay was right there, maybe a play away from meeting in the NFC Championship game. And I think it is keen for them to not just focus on what they're doing, but make sure that they're staying ahead of the curve. And you can only do that by paying attention to what's going on in your division. I know something that was really big for them last year. There was two things that Dan Campbell continued to talk about: win your division, also win the quarters. Every quarter of the season, make sure that you're ahead. And so to know that his kind of eye and his pulse is on those types of things, it definitely makes me very optimistic about what the Detroit Lions can be, even though the division is perceivably taking some steps forward. Definitely. Broder, do you want to get to that last clip as well?
Oh, yeah, it's the last one. Just Brad Holmes. This is the one we have about Brad Holmes and what he's thought about this free agency haul so far.
I truly believe this was our best free agency haul that we've had since we've been here. And the reason why I say that is, through our planning and process this year, we have these number one targets, and we literally were able to get every single one of our number one targets that we were out to get. It doesn't always work that way. Sometimes it's like you might strike out on one, you got to go to plan B, or you got to go to plan C. No, we were actually able to land plan A. And even at the corner position, we didn't know if we're going to be able to do both with, doing the Carlton Davis trade and getting Amik Robertson. I thought we were just going to have to be able to pick one or the other, but the way it worked out, just to be able to land both was huge. So that's why I think that to this day, this is our best free agency haul.
Rod, you gotta love it hearing it from the man himself, Brad Holmes. So, Rod, how much did the Detroit Lions improve with their free agent signings?
That's a great question.
Remains to be seen, but the fact that they went out and they attacked the cornerback position, attacked it, went and made a trade for Carlton Davis, and that may end up being the biggest move that they made. In that, what they talked about also was Carlton Davis can shut down one half of the field. And not necessarily that he's a shutdown corner, but they said when they played Tampa Bay last year, they didn't want to throw to that side that he was on. So his ability to come up and run support, his coverage ability, that even if he makes you not throw sometimes there, it allows you, and they talked about this, it allows Aaron Glenn to make specific calls and say, hey, you know what? We're going man. We don't have to play zone right here. There's not this soft shell zone that we're going to play. We're playing man because Davis has his man on lock. And so it enables the defensive coordinator to call certain plays, to feel very comfortable about whether that pressure is going to get there, because you know what? That corner has that receiver and he has enough time to let that pressure get to the quarterback a little bit quicker. Those are things that are going to pay huge dividends. And even within that, with Amik Robertson, it was after they had gotten Davis, they thought they weren't going to be able, and he mentioned that, they weren't going to be able to get Robertson too. And Robertson's like, bro, are we going to do this or what? So they went in, and I was heartened to see that they attacked the position and went after not their one guy, but went after another guy. And they may still go after another corner for depth in the draft too. That shows the aggressiveness. That shows that they're not sort of satisfied with where they are, and that they want to be that much better on defense, especially at their weakest position. And what we saw in the playoffs, that if they had Carlton Davis last year, do they win that game against the 49ers? Yeah, they do. They do. Ooh. And they're in the Super Bowl. And who knows what they do at that point in the Super Bowl, because did Kansas City look unbeatable in the Super Bowl? No. So I like what they've done this offseason already. We haven't even done the draft yet. We're talking about adding young guys in depth. If they can make some moves, if they can add other impact players without having to, you don't have to trade up. There's nothing that says you need to go get this position. But if they can do that, I think they'll really, really bolster their likelihood to get back to the NFC Championship and beyond for next year.